As millions of people are right now celebrating International Women's Day, we are reflecting back on a big year for women's sports in Canada. Canadian women made huge gains this year, taking part in a new professional hockey league, preparing for international competitions, and celebrating while bidding farewell to soccer legend Christine Sinclair. At the same time, they are still dealing with inequities in pay, resources, and leadership roles. So joining us this morning from Calgary to discuss the present obstacles, the future potential of women's sports is Alison Sandmeyer-Graves. She is the CEO of Canadian Women and Sports. Happy International Women's Day to you.
To you too. Good morning.
Good morning. Let's start with some good news. The Professional Women's Hockey League started its first season January 1st. Every time I watch the walk-ins of them coming in, I watch all of the coverage, I see when they sell out the games, and I remember and I celebrate because I remember when girls weren't allowed to play hockey, right? When they had to fight to even just be on a boys' team. And the fact that we have this league, I think, is just so exciting. How is it literally changing the game for hockey here in Canada?
I would say it's not only changing the game for hockey in Canada, it's really changing the landscape of women's sport and what people imagine is possible for women's sport. In our country, there's such an industry around men's professional sport, and that really impacts the entire ecosystem, right down to kids playing in our communities. But girls and women haven't had those same opportunities to aspire to play professionally right here in our own country, as opposed to going overseas or to the United States. And that gives way more role models and way more value and respect just permeating that sports culture and supporting the girls staying in sport.
And while we can celebrate the success for the PWHL, the national women's soccer team, let's take a look over there. They are still pushing for a fair deal. Last summer, we reported they agreed to an interim labor deal that was ahead of the FIFA World Cup, although they said they were not done fighting against this gender pay gap. So what other major obstacles are female athletes still facing in this country?
I think that particular issue is really symbolic of the fact that for many, many decades, sport in this country has been very male-dominated. Certainly that is changing. However, it's really baked into the policies, the priorities, the culture of our sports system, and that's taking a lot of work to undo. We're thrilled to have so many organizations at every level of sport working with us on moving that needle forward towards gender equity, but there are some really significant challenges within the sports system. And I think, women like the national women's team in soccer are being increasingly bold in rejecting the status quo and calling for better conditions for women and girls in this country.
One of the things I really like about your organization, and if people have a minute, I encourage them to go to your website, is you've done a great job of compiling data and making it accessible for people. And some of that found that in 2023, 43% of board seats at national sports organizations were held by women. So that's an increase from 2022. It's a 9% increase from 2018. How does more women in leadership positions help us to move through some of those issues you and I were just talking about?
Yeah, to do this work is to be an optimist, and it's really nice to be rewarded with tangible signs of progress. More women in leadership roles is great for women and girls. These perspectives, these contributions, the needs and interests of girls and women just haven't been adequately represented in the decision-making within sport when it comes to investment, strategy, hiring, policies, all of those things that happen at the board table and the senior leadership tables. So this change we see as incredibly positive for reshaping the entire landscape of sport. There's more work to be done for sure, and we need to make sure that there's women of all backgrounds at these tables so that the change benefits all women and girls.
And what I really appreciate about that is when there's women such as yourself in those discussions, that means the women who are athletes can concentrate on their sport. So they're not trying to do what Christine Sinclair did, which was compete and fight at the same time. The Paris Olympics, let's look ahead to the summer. What are you most excited about for 2024?
Well, this is being touted as the most gender equal Olympics in history, certainly from an athlete perspective. And so without a doubt, we can expect to see the Canadian women bringing home a lot of the hardware, as they say. That is so often the story, particularly in the first week of the Olympics. Our Canadian women just shine on that international stage. So very much looking forward to seeing the action from Paris and to seeing also the legacy of this as the Paris Olympics really tries to put some things in place that we hope future major games will follow, and a legacy that is ultimately a sports system that is, again, continuously making that progress to being more fair and equal for women and girls.
Alison Sandmeyer-Graves, happy International Women's Day to you, and thanks for coming on today.
Thank you. To you too.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you liked this, be sure to subscribe here, or you can check out more Your Morning videos right here.